there's a little divide on the calories on carnivore. Some say like they don't matter, but I feel like they still matter to some extent if you're eating more than you're burning off. So for me, like, I mean, way too much heavy cream. So I believe that's why I stalled, because I did this for like 2 weeks now and I lost 6 pounds. So I'm like, okay, the dairy was holding me back.
Hey people, hope everybody's having a great day. And here comes Courtney. We've got Courtney Luna coming in. We're gonna talk all kinds of stuff.
Hi.
How are you doing? I'm good.
I am good.
So if you guys have any questions about carnivore or Courtney's journey or my journey, we're both doing 2 kind of different versions of the carnivore diet right now. So that's kind of an interesting topic. And we both come from histories of always either under eating or like overeating and eating the wrong things, kind of binge eating and stuff. So this should be an interesting conversation. We're just going to talk for a few minutes. We'll both share our stories. And if you guys have questions, make sure you put them down in the question box below, and we'll try to get to those as soon as we can. So why don't you start with your story and how you became a carnivore, what made you do that, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so long time yo-yo dieter. I mean, honestly, like for the last 25 years, like, so I think I was like 13 when I went to a Weight Watchers meeting. And you know, you name it, I've tried it. Slim fast, grapefruit diet. You know what someone just reminded me of lately? The Special K diet, like not the drug.
What about
the cereal?
Did you ever do that one? Really? Oh,
I don't think I did that,
but I'm like you. For me, it's been about 35 years. I'm older than you. 35 years. I bought my first diet pills when I was 12. Yep.
I forgot about diet pills.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
did those in high school. Yeah, so I mean, long history of wonky eating, disordered eating. And it was always about trying to get to my goal weight. I never once thought about like health. I don't know if maybe I thought like, oh, getting to a healthy weight is what makes you healthy. So yeah, and then that kind of led to eventually like 7 years ago, I found keto. So I did keto on and off, low carb. Paleo, I guess, was 10 years ago. So I dabbled in paleo. And it wasn't till I, you know, gaining the weight on and off, like nothing was ever sustainable. Nothing kept it off. It wasn't till like the 80th time of losing 50 pounds where I stopped doing what was working for me. I was low carb and I'm like, I'm going to intuitively eat. Like I got caught up in all this anti-diet culture BS. And I'm like, yeah, like food's not good or bad. There's no like morality to it. And when you come from a place of being addicted to carbs and sugar, like there's no moderating. So I did really good for the first week, Serena.
Let's take a poll. How many people are off the wagon of their New Year's resolution diet right now? I bet it's most people.
Yeah. So I intuitively ate really good for 1 week. I even lost 2 pounds. I had like a croissant one time. I'm like, this is great. Yeah, that didn't end well. I gained 40 pounds in 4 months, and that brought me to finding carnivore. I was, you know, sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. My skin was bad. Clearly I was overweight. I was fatigued, even though I woke up after like a good night's sleep. I mean, so many list of ailments. And my intro to it was my husband kept sending me like Saladino's TikToks, and we never talked about it. He just kept sending them. And after like a month, I'm like, wait, like, why are you sending me these? Like, is this like, do you believe this? Like, you really think we should not be eating vegetables? I'm like, you're crazy. Because we're coming from, you know, keto, where it's like cram in the veggies and have a lot of meat, but you're just eating meat and veggies. He's like, I don't know, I got to look into it. So that was like our intro. And I did start out animal based with no intention to be strict carnivore, because in my mind, it's like, oh, I get to have fruit still. Like I was still mindful of my carbs. But I mean, the sugar addictive side of me was like, oh, this is fabulous. I can dump maple syrup on my burgers, which is very delicious, by the way. I understand why he does it. But like quickly, my old habits like came back, and I could eat like a big ribeye and be satisfied and be like, oh, I want blueberries, like not even hungry for them, but I wanted the sweets. So that lasted about 5 weeks, and I went straight carnivore, and yeah, I've never been better. And now I'm doing a BBBE, but we can get into that later because I have I've got some things to say about
my story is very, very similar. I mean, just the similarities. Now, I didn't start carnivore like you did, but I had been keto over the years multiple times, and I would do great, like on Atkins, like before keto was a thing. I would do Atkins, and I would do great for like 2-3 weeks. I would lose 10 pounds. I would feel amazing. And then I would like go off and eat a pound cake, like literally a pound cake. And I'm not, just so you know, pound cake doesn't make you gain a pound. I know from experience. A pound cake actually makes you gain 10 pounds. I mean, like pound cake, yeah, it's so delicious. A pound
So
of all
delicious.
of the ingredients. It's nothing but delicious, buttery goodness. And so it doesn't make you gain a pound. That makes you gain a lot more than that. But I did that over and over again over the years. Juice fasting, cabbage soup diet. I mean, you name it, I did it. I did Weight Watchers multiple times over the years. And I was never like really overweight, but like this last time when I started carnivore was probably the most ever, unless I was pregnant, you know, or had just had a baby. But, you know, 25 pounds. But typically for me, it was always trying to get off that last 10. It was always like that goal that was just out of reach that I wanted so badly. It was always a weight goal. Like you said, it wasn't really a health goal, except when I was juicing. But there was always the weight in the back of my mind. I was always losing weight when I was juicing. I would do 14-day juice fasts where I would do nothing but drink fresh vegetable and fruit juices. And I loved it, and I thought I felt great. There is no comparison with the juicing compared to the way I feel now. And I don't feel deprived. When I was juicing, I always felt deprived. That was the thing I always fell back towards. And it was always kind of a punishment for eating the things, like for eating the pound cake when I came off keto or something like that, you know, always trying to get off those last pounds. But being a carnivore is the least restricted that I have felt in my entire adult life. I mean, I used to bring lean cuisines to Christmas dinner, so I didn't have to eat, so I wasn't tempted to eat the other foods. I was eating a meal, it was like this big, it was like 300 calories, but it kept me from eating the other foods. That was when I was being really strict. Now, when I wasn't being really strict, I'd eat a whole pie, you know, go back when nobody was paying attention, hide in the kitchen and eat more. I mean, I definitely had a problem. I was like the biggest carbohydrate addict, you know, I mean, huge. The weekend that I became a carnivore on Monday following my birthday weekend in 2021. And I had eaten 20 cupcakes in 36 hours. So you want to talk about being able to put away the carbohydrates. And I haven't looked back like you. I mean, once I made that decision and got into it and started really kind of trucking along, I would like constantly have my AirPod in, listening to somebody's videos or somebody's podcast, or, you know, something, just like soaking up all of the information, listening to a book about it. And that kind of immerses you into it, and you can kind of learn, you know, while you're doing it, and it kind of keeps you dedicated and keeps the motivation going. And so for me, that's how I got into it. And I have not taken one day off. I have not had a cheat meal, because I know, like you, if I do that, it's going to send me on a 2 or 3 week probably binge. I mean, it would be really hard for me to come back from that. I mean, not because I feel restricted doing this, but just because that's my nature. I just, like you said, you revert back to your old ways. It's just this, that's what we do as humans. We revert back to our old ways. But the carnivore diet is the one thing that has kept me. This is the longest I have ever done something. How about you? Is this like the longest you've ever been able to stick to it without like having a binge of some sort?
Yeah, 100%. And yesterday was my eight-month mark, and haven't even had a bite of anything. And that's not even saying anything to brag. Like, if you want to have a bite of something, whatever, like
Right.
I've had no desire. And it's so wild because, you know, like you were saying, like with keto, it was always like, okay, I'm going to have like a cheat night or a cheat weekend. And then sometimes it would go on weeks and you'd fall off, but it was just always like this vicious cycle. Now, I don't know if it's because I always like would have like keto treats. So even though it's keto, you're still having that sweetness. So the cravings there, but yeah, eating this way, like, I think it's a mix of just being super nutritious and also just having all those foods like off of the table, no pun intended, but it's like, if you're not having those sweeteners, you're not craving them anymore. And yeah, like I'm blown away that I haven't even had a bite of something, partly because I don't want it, but I'm also like aware, like, okay, maybe in the future, I don't know, but like right now, if I had a bite of that, that might be a slippery slope. And before you know it, I'll be, you know, in the drive-thru getting a McFlurry. And I just don't want to feel that way again. Like I feel so good right now.
Yeah,
I don't want to not
absolutely.
feel
And I
this
feel the
way.
same way. And there's no chance, I don't think. I mean, unless I had a lapse and ate one little thing. But as far as I can tell, as far as I know, there is no chance I'm going to go on some sort of a wild binge, because I do feel so good, and I do attribute that to the carnivore diet. And no, it's always in the back of my mind. It's like being a drug addict. It's always in the back of my mind that if I get a hit, it'll go on and on and on, and I'll have to go through the withdrawals again. And I don't want to do that because I feel so good. So if you guys have questions, put them down in the question box down in the corner there, the little bubble with the question mark, and we'll get to those. We only have until 7:30. So if you have questions, make sure you get those in. So let's take a minute and just talk about both of our variations of the carnivore diet and why we're doing it. So you go first. What made you decide to start? I think I know, and I don't think I've heard you talk about this, but I think I know. But what made you start BBBE?
Yeah, so the main reason for that is because I was having so much heavy cream.
Yeah.
Like that kind of became like my little crutch, and it tastes so sweet to me. Like 8 months ago, I would not taste the sweetness, but now it's like it really pops. And so I was having way too much. I think it's one thing if it like were to fit in your macros or whatever, but I was just having more even when I wasn't hungry. So it's like I would be satiated for the day and be like, oh, okay, I want a creamy coffee. So I would have all these creamy coffees. So my intention for doing this was to just essentially make me stop having dairy for a month. And I know butter has dairy in it, but that wasn't the issue for me. So I started, I think I'm like on week 2. It might even be like 17 days. I don't know. I lost track. The BBBE, it's beef, bacon, butter, and eggs. And I don't know if anyone saw my recent post, but I cheated.
I saw the cover. I thought she did not actually cheat. She didn't eat off the carnivore diet. I knew that you were still doing good, doing well.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to see more details, it's on my YouTube, but I will give you the spoiler. I cheated the BBBE, but I didn't cheat carnivore. So I had chicken wings. Well, I guess I had the whole rotisserie. I wanted chicken wings from Buffalo Wild Wings. But I was just craving it. And I thought about it for a few days. I'm like, okay, like, do I push through? Like, obviously I can push through, or do I just say F it? Because my whole thing was the dairy thing anyways. So I'm like, you know, I'm allowed to have eggs, so why not chicken? And I don't even know why, because it's like Ken Berry's thing. I don't know why it's like specifically these animals. I mean, maybe you do, but I think it was just for me like, oh, let's have this little bit of structure, and it sounds cute. Like I'll share my videos, and I'm like, I don't really care. And so I'm going to stick with it in a way. Like I'm going to finish the 30 days with not having dairy. But I'm going to have all the animals. So mine just trickled out to just being, I guess, dairy-free carnivore.
If I was going to cheat on the lion diet, which I'm doing now, and I'll explain in just a minute, if I was going to cheat on that, it would be chicken wings. Like that is so fun. And it's the only time that I use a condiment, and I don't use it as much as I used to because Dr. Chapey kind of gave me a hard time about it. But it's the only time I ever use a hot sauce. I use a little bit of a buffalo sauce and a little bit of blue cheese dressing when I have them. It takes me back to my childhood. I mean, it just, there is something about some good buffalo wings that just makes my mouth water. And I've had them for years because it's bad for you, because the chicken is fried, you know, blah, 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 whatever. And so now that I can have that, that's kind of become my thing, but it's not a crutch or anything like that. I cannot have them if I don't want them. You know, I don't feel like I'm addicted to them, but I do want them sometimes. And I think that's okay, because some people, you know, there are days I wake up and I want a steak that bad. And there are days I wake up and I want a grilled burger that bad, you know? So I don't think that I'm using it as kind of another addiction kind of thing. So I just kind of blow it off. I mean, what's the big deal? It's a little bit of hot sauce and it's a little bit of blue cheese dressing, and I don't wake up the next day puffy or bloated or achy or anything like that. I think that's the good thing about the carnivore diet, is we become very in tune with our bodies, which is kind of why I'm doing the lion diet this month. I just felt like my body needed a break from the cheese. I was back to eating cheese on cheese on cheese. I was eating lots and lots of cheese. I actually gained 5 pounds from all the cheese I ate between Christmas and New Year's. It's pretty much gone now, but I did gain weight from all the cheese that I was eating because I did go overboard for the holidays. Everything I made to take places was lots and lots of cheese. But just in any case, so I'm doing the Lion Diet, different variation than the one Courtney is doing with the BBBE. I am doing just ruminant animals, and because the only ruminant animal that I like is beef, I'm eating just beef, drinking only water, and just having salt as a seasoning. And so that's what I'm doing for the month of January. I do really want wings though, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I can be strong. I can be strong. It's how many more days? Oh, it's 20 more days. I can do it though. It's fine. Okay. Wait, we have a question. How have you processed weight ups and downs? It can be a little bit discouraging. With the carnivore diet, I guess they mean. So what do you think about that?
I just recently had like a big stall. And I think it's because I was just overeating the dairy, and just having way more. Like, okay, I feel like, there's a little divide on the calories on carnivore. Some say like they don't matter, but I feel like they still matter to some extent if you're eating more than you're burning off. So for me, like, I mean, way too much heavy cream. So I believe that's why I stalled, because I did this for like 2 weeks now and I lost 6 pounds. So I'm like, okay, the dairy was holding me back. Yeah, right. I did a modified version of the BBB. We're switching one of the B's to be like bone-in chicken wings. So there we go.
How funny. You do
have coffee. I have coffee.
Yeah, so
that's my one little thing.
Back in April of last year, and I was sad for about 2 weeks. I weaned myself over a week, and then the next 2 weeks were pretty sad. Now, it didn't taste good to me anyway because of that post-COVID issue where things taste and smell rotten that I still have. And so it didn't really taste right to me anyway. So it's probably easier for me to give up than it is for, your average person to give up when it still tastes really good. But it was hard. It took me 2 weeks of being sad. And even now, even like at Christmas time, when everybody is sitting around drinking coffee after the meal and stuff, I do like wish I could have a cup, I think, but where it doesn't taste right to me anyway. I mean, if I ever really wanted one and it tasted like coffee to me again, I probably would have a cup. But I'm not going to sweat it if I do. And, lots of people continue to drink coffee and it's fine. What made me quit though was Dr. Chafee saying that last 5% can make 95% of the difference for people. And so that's why I wanted to give it up really. I don't know that it made a huge difference for me, but I'm okay with not drinking it for now. And then, I'll reassess if my smell and taste come back to normal and then I can decide. Okay.
Yeah. The sad thing you mentioned, it's so true, because I did give it up for 2 weeks and I felt sad. Like it took joy away. And it's not like I need the caffeine. Like I often drink decaf. I just love the taste. I love the ritual. I tried to replace it with bone broth and it didn't quite do it for me. Like, I don't know. There's something about it. And it's like, you know what? I'm giving up everything else. Let me have this one vice. I'll look for anyone to give me like confirmations. Like, all right, Dr. Ken Berry says if it works for you, you can keep it.
So I kept drinking it for a long time thinking, that it was okay. And I do think it's okay if you still want to drink coffee. I don't have a problem with that at all. So Chrissy, Wealth of Health says, since I stopped dairy, I'm dealing with constipation. Any tips? Did you have that issue?
Yeah. I didn't, but I eat a lot of fat. I think the fat's the key to keep things moving. I stay hydrated, electrolyte, like I eat a lot of, of salt. And then I do take
the same thing. I do take magnesium. But I haven't noticed much of an issue. I may be going a little bit less, but I don't, there's a difference between not going and not having to go. So our body is using more of what we're eating. I would say with dairy, maybe there was more leftovers, there was more waste with dairy. I'm not sure about that. But I do eat a lot of fat also. And so I think that can make a huge difference. So the Carnivore Vitality Boys, or one of them, I'm not sure which one it is, if it's Ed or Daniel, but they're asking, have you guys noticed slower wound healing times on the carnivore diet? Not sure if I'm in the early stages of scurvy. Well, I hope you're not in the early stages of scurvy, but I don't think I've actually had any wounds really to speak of that I can say. So you'll have to tell us what happened, first of all. I want to know what kind of wound we're talking about. What do you think?
Yeah, I know. Your account get hacked. Is this true? I'm surprised by that.
No, you'll have to let us know. That does seem a little bit odd. Okay, so if you guys have any more questions, make sure to put them down there in the question box. Let's look through the comments real quick and see if we missed anything.
Okay. I will touch though on the scurvy real quick. I don't know if you guys watched Bart K recently did a reaction video to Joey, and he touched on scurvy in that, because I think Joey mentioned that he thought maybe he was getting scurvy because his gums were bleeding. Oh, you think they're kidding? Oh, maybe they are being sarcastic. But if you're not being sarcastic, I would check out Bart's video, because he talks about how like there's like literally like no cases of scurvy and no one's having it. I don't know, but
yeah, and if you are
kidding, maybe they're being sarcastic.
Okay, let's see. So let's talk about some other things while we're waiting for questions to come in. I think the carb addiction thing is not talked about enough. I think people don't look at it like it's an actual addiction, and I think that's so sad, because it affects so many of us so negatively until we came to this way of eating. Because like you said, even on any diet I had ever been on, even like with juicing, I drank more fruit juice than I did vegetable juice at one point. And you're supposed to drink mostly vegetable juice, but it was the sugar. And anytime I ever broke a diet or a fast or anything like that, it was always for sugar and carbohydrates, never for meat. It's so hard to overeat meat. And I know you'll agree with that. Like for you, anytime you ever went off, it was like typically for carbohydrates, wasn't it?
Yeah, always something sweet. Oh gosh, I was going to say something else, and then I started reading this comment. Okay. I'm like, everyone has this like lack of brain fog and like mental clarity, and I feel like I get distracted so easily. Like I'm not quite there yet. I guess.
I feel like I'm much more clear than I was before, but I'm older than you. Okay, so they say, I know no one gets scurvy on carnivore, and I made a video about why, but just in general, little cuts. Oh, so it was a serious question. Yeah.
About the wounds.
Yeah, I haven't noticed any issue. Oh, and then they say, and because my metabolism is slow, I don't eat as much red meat as other people, so I would be getting less vitamin C. Anyways, I'm going to get a blood test and check it out. Yeah, that's probably the best thing. And you may want to ask, like Dr. Chafee or Dr. Baker about that, but I haven't heard of that. But somebody in the comments said that they do find that they heal slower. Yeah.
Oh, back to what we were saying. Yeah, like the carb and sugar thing. The whole like addiction, like it's so dismissed sometimes, but I don't see how. Yeah. Like I mean, it's the same thing like an alcoholic feels. Like I mean, and I quit drinking way before a carnivore because I was not a good drinker. So it's kind of like the same thing. Like once you have one, if you're not good at moderating, you want more and you want the whole bottle. So I wish people were more like accepting and not dismissing people who are literally like addicted to carbs and sugar. It's doing something to our brain, and we want.
If you look around at people like at the grocery store and at restaurants, I mean, people are addicted and they are ordering mostly carbohydrates with their meals. The steaks are getting smaller, and it seems like the side dishes of carbohydrates are getting bigger. And the restaurants, it's cheaper for them if you don't eat as much meat. So like blow them away, go in and order, 2 meals of just steak and tell them to keep the sides. I mean, I've done that. I've told them, keep the potato, bring me the stuff that goes on the potato, on the side, and I'll get the sour cream and the bacon and the butter and put it on my steak or something, but I just think that it's not talked about often enough. And when you say to somebody who isn't already in this space and doesn't already understand, they don't take it seriously. People like poo-poo it like it's nothing. But I came from an alcoholic mother and a drug addict father. And so chances are I was going to have an addictive tendency, and my tendency was towards sugar. It could also be towards other things. Though there were times I would eat like those giant bags of kale from like Sam's or Costco. I would saute that in coconut oil with some salt, and I would eat the entire bag. You want to talk about being sick. And I had a friend one day tell me, I've never heard anybody feeling guilty about eating too much kale, but that's because she's also not a carb addict, and she doesn't understand what that feels like, to be picking at it with your fingers while you're cooking it and not be able to stop, and then have to make another bag for everybody else because you screwed up and ate all the side dish that was supposed to anybody ever been there understands that. So it could be savory, it could be sweet, but it was still a carbohydrate, it was still a binge. But I have never done that with hamburgers.
Yeah. Yeah. When I'm done eating my burgers, I'm not going to go like emotionally eat a steak.
Yeah.
Like when you're done, you're done.
That's
and
right.
There's
It's
no
so good for you
desire
mentally
anymore.
and physically. Okay, question. How much potassium, magnesium, and sodium do you take in a day, or do you get your electrolytes from your diet? And if so, how? You want to go first?
Sure. So I salt everything. I love salt. So I mean, gobs. I probably use a couple tablespoons a day at least, but that's just what I like. I don't do anything for potassium. I just get it in whatever I'm eating. I did recently start taking a magnesium. I heard that like 80% of people are deficient no matter what diet you're eating. And since it helps with like anxiety and stuff and being calm, which I previously was on Zoloft. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take all the help I can get in the mental health department. And I feel good with it. Like it can help with like leg cramps. Sometimes, you know, you stretch and you get a Charlie horse if you're like on these low carb diets. So that helps. Restful night's sleep. So that is what I take. And then like once in a while, I do have liver supplements, or actually it's like an organ blend. Once in a while, I'll take one, but like not consistently.
Yeah, I use
So
electrolytes
what about
in the
you?
beginning, probably for the first year. And then somebody said, are you sure you need electrolytes? And it's not just that you need more water. And I was like, So I stopped using the electrolytes, and sure enough, I was fine. I drink between 3 quarts and a gallon of water a day. I use lots of salt like Courtney does. And then I do take what's called ZMA. It's a supplement that a friend told me about maybe 2 summers ago to help stop, like I was having some hot flashes in the middle of the night. I wasn't sleeping very well. And so I take this ZMA supplement, and it's just, vitamins and minerals, and it does help me sleep better. It took away, I haven't had even one hot flash since then, and I'll be 50 in May. So it really did definitely help me with that. And so that's the only other thing that I take. I take iodine every now and then. I take a couple of drops. I was taking it a lot, like taking it religiously every day and upping my dosage. And I just didn't notice a difference. So I lowered it back down, and then I didn't take it for 6 months. And now it sits on the counter, and usually I forget to take it. But as far as other supplements go, that, I don't do anything else. But the potassium, magnesium, and sodium, I think as long as you're eating a really good array of stuff, it's really not that important.
Yeah. Eat the rainbow of animals.
Absolutely. Okay, one more question and we got to hang it up, right? Okay.
Yeah, sorry. It's my fault. We got to
you
cut it
ever
early,
felt
guys.
extremely thirsty? I've been doing electrolytes and 1 gallon of water. I mean, there have been times I'm more thirsty than other times, but I don't know. I mean, I think a gallon is decent. I don't know that I would go way over a gallon unless you're extremely active, because you don't want to deplete or, flush out too many of your nutrients, or your electrolytes in your body. And you do need more water carnivore typically. So I think a gallon is decent. If you're incredibly thirsty, maybe like spread it out and drink it in smaller spurts throughout the day, but drink the same amount. Maybe that would help you to not feel so thirsty.
Yeah, I tend to be on the more like thirsty side, I feel like, than other people. I think other people have to like force themselves to drink, whereas I feel thirsty throughout the day. But I don't track anymore, but I would say I'm probably not more than a gallon, but I definitely wouldn't push a gallon just to be hitting a gallon. Like just drink to thirst, unless you're like really not a thirsty person. Then I would maybe remind yourself to drink something here and there.
Okay. Sorry guys, we got to wrap it up, but thank you so much, Courtney. We'll have to do it again. Like next week, or I think.
Yeah.
I think I'm doing something with you next week.
You cut out,
so we'll
sorry.
be together.
Yes. Serena is going to be on our podcast. We are recording next week, and we'll be talking about all the things, binging, eating disorders, all that.
Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll do this again sometime. Thanks, buddy. Bye.
Thank you. All right.